other things we wanted to talk about. Who is the hobby, Ben? You wanted to talk about who is the hobby, right? That's a perfect example of it, right? The hobby is everyone on the Apex forum who's complaining about Apex. No, that is not the hobby, right?
So I guess I get this because we're all involved in or not, but we're all involved in different aspects of the hobby. So I have conversations with people, and then they sort of argue with me, and I feel like some of these people think that the width and breadth of the hobby is people that they are bumping into on social media. But in my line of work, you get some of that, but generally, I don't go for clients that are hobbyists. That some of them, and I don't mean this derogatorily, but like a failed hobbyist. But then they found me, and I do it, and that's fine with them. But or when you work at a retail store and the people just coming in, like I am convinced. Of course, I have no way to know these numbers, but I'm just convinced that the bulk of the hobby are these people you're never even going to meet on a Facebook forum, on a specific like chat board or forum thing, or on our Discord. These are people that sort of care more to dig and do more, studying and this and that. But I'm telling you, as someone who used to work at stores for 10 years, the bulk of the hobby are just people just phoning it in and throwing darts in a dark room. And, so when we have a conversation and someone's like, oh, well, I think the average hobbyist is much more blah, blah than that. It's like, no, because I've worked at places where the bulk of that hobby comes in and asks me questions, and they didn't even know that believe it or not, there are people that don't even know where to get information from, or they're not motivated or whatever it is. It's just the bulk of the people are out there saying, how come my Oscar ate my betta? Or why can't I keep this anemone? Well, first of all, they can't say anemone. No, I'm being mean.
No, they
But
can't.
why can't they say this, keep this anemone under this, regular output bulb? Or so that is most of the hobby is just these people sort of, they want to get into it, but you got to realize, I guess it's like a sporting thing, like boxers. Like these are the really good boxers, and the rest of it is, all these other people. So in the hobby, the people we bump into on forums, on social media, and asking questions and giving advice, that's this little chunk of the hobby. There's just all this rest of the hobby right here that's just people phoning it in at fish stores and stuff.
I agree. I wrote an article, and I can't remember what it was called. It's not a skeptical reef keeping. I'll have to look it up. But that talked about, the hobby isn't who you see on your forum or in your group. That isn't the hobby. That's a tiny slice of the hobby. The rest of it is exactly what you're saying. The bulk of the hobby, people don't they just want a pretty animal, and they're in it for 18 months or whatever. So don't make the mistake. And that's also what you see on forums, is people thinking that. So I use I'm in the Zeo, right? I have a Zeo tank. So I'm in the Zeo group, and I spend 90% of my time in the Zeo group.
This is fictitious, by the way.
Absolutely. I had to not say one that's kind of live that I'm thinking of, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to bring reality.
Yeah.
Close reality into this.
Zeovit, so a passe.
There's one of these going on right now where it's like, dude, you spend all your time in that group. The world is not that group. The examples, in the Zeo group, it's like, and then they keep posting pictures of great looking tanks with Zeo. It's like, yeah, there's great looking tanks without that. It's the people you hang out with is not everyone.
That's the opposite of the thing I was just saying about
is it?
the Neptune complaint thing. So that's the opposite. So if you have a Zeovit thing and you see all these great tanks, which, you'll get me saying, like, the great tanks that you see there are the 15 people in the world that are only having success with that. And they're right there on that forum. But, and then so you would go to that and, Zeo's the way to go. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't,
right.
But it's very passe. It's very passe.
there, listen, it's all of the systems work. We've talked about this before. I think they work because it makes the reef keeper pay attention in a consistent kind of way. So I don't think it matters what philosophy, as long as you're following a philosophy. So Zeo is fine, just because it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, it makes sense, but just because I think it's unnecessary. That's fine for me, and it's fine for you if you love Zeo or these other ones that I'm not mentioning by name.
And we've touched on this before too. If you go, well, I kind of do Zeovit, but I also do Berlin method, and I also add aminos. Oh, and I also do moonshine. But it's like, but I'm having a problem.
Yeah, I can't help you.